So let me take you on a little journey. Imagine you're driving down a long, straight road in the Arizona desert. The sun is blazing and the heat is almost unbearable. As you squint into the distance, you see what looks like a pool of water on the road ahead. You drive closer, hoping for a refreshing splash, but it vanishes, leaving you with nothing but the scorching asphalt beneath your tires.
Now that, my friends, is a mirage. And it's a perfect metaphor for perfectionism. Perfectionism is like a shimmering illusion of water, enticing, seemingly real, but ultimately unattainable. It's a myth that exhausts us as we chase it, leaving us parched and weary.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 54 of the Health Revolution podcast, Chasing Mirages, the Myth of Perfectionism. I'm Alyson.
And I'm Dr. Jon.
Let's go. Hi, I'm Alyson.
And I'm Dr. Jon. Here at the Health Revolution podcast, we firmly believe that mental and physical health are linked, and it's impossible to achieve optimal health without addressing both.
Through our expertise as life coaches, we can help you achieve your best healthy self through coaching techniques, looking at our diet, and discussing alternative medicine.
In this podcast, you'll learn how to optimize your nutrition, manage stress, and cultivate a positive mindset.
We'll share personal stories and practical advice along the way. We might laugh, we might cry.
Our goal is to help you live a healthier and happier life, one that's full of energy, vitality, and joy.
Let's embark on this journey towards optimal health and wellness together. Okay, Jon, I just had an interesting situation where I just said on the intro, I was Jon. And
that left me very confused. A little bit of an identity crisis there.
It's been a little
while.
Who am I? It's been so long since we recorded the podcast. I forgot who I am. Oh my goodness. You know what? We took off for this summer. We took a nice break from the podcast to spend time with family and do a lot of traveling. And I'm so glad we did. But the great news is we're back and we stored up so much for you all. Like we just kept taking notes of what we wanted to add to this podcast, and we're ready to go.
Yes, absolutely. I'm excited. This will be a fun year. Hopefully we can do another 52, 53 podcasts this year.
Yeah, let's go. All right. So just a short summer recap. Let's do that. We went to a big trip to Yellowstone.
We did. That was great.
We took the camper up there, enjoyed beautiful weather.
And the animals. So many animals.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time outdoors. It was really great. And I took Ella to Hawaii. I want to talk about that on a future podcast episode because it was just this beautiful one-on-one experience where it was just me and my 12-year-old daughter. And it's a tradition that we've been doing in our family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got to take Grant to Hawaii to go deep sea fishing. And like Josie, way back in the day, you took her to New York City.
Yeah. So I want to talk about that in the future episode, like I said, because it was really transformative in my parenting and my compassion and a lot of things. I learned so much on that trip. Yep. And then Josie has started treatment for Lyme disease at Envita Medical Center.
We're celebrating week 5 this week.
Yes, we're at the hump. So it's an 8-week treatment and she just finished week 4. And so hopefully we'll start seeing some improvement in these next few weeks.
Yeah.
And we'll keep you guys posted on that as well. It's a really interesting, what do you call it?
Journey.
Yeah. Yeah. Like a treatment plan they have.
The best way that I describe what she's going through right now is it's essentially chemotherapy. I mean, they're not going after cancer, but they're going after these little tiny bacteria that are hiding away in her body. But she's in there with all the cancer patients doing most of the IVs that the cancer patients are doing.
Yeah, she has a port put in her chest and it's been challenging. She's only 17 and going through all of this. She's the only one in there that needs a guardian.
Yep. And she's doing so well.
She's the youngest one, but yeah, she's doing great. All right. So Jon, in the intro, did you like that? Talking about the mirage? We see a lot of mirages here in the desert sun. So I was like, oh, that's such a perfect metaphor. We've got to use that because really it is like you try to reach it. And then it's even like once you get to that point where you think, oh, there it is. Once I get there, I'll hit it. Then it's always, there's another one in the distance. And it's like, oh no, there it is. You're always chasing it and you're never able to get to it.
Yes.
So perfectionism is rooted in vulnerability and acceptance of self. And what I mean by that is the reason we want to be perfect, or we think it's important to be perfect, is so that no one will see our flaws, see our weaknesses. And really that is so we don't have certain feelings. We think that's going to help us avoid certain feelings. So what kind of feelings do you think you might be avoiding if someone thought you were perfect or didn't see any flaws?
Well, I mean, I would say that the first number one feeling that comes up for me is perhaps shame. And shame, to review that again, it's different than guilt. Guilt is I did something wrong. Shame is I'm a bad person.
Yeah.
And if I'm not perfect and it's an all or nothing world, then I must be a bad person. Or even embarrassment for all that goes.
That's a big one for a lot of people. Shame and I would say shame and embarrassment both. But I think embarrassment is big with our kids.
Oh my gosh.
Our teenagers.
Yeah.
They're just like, that's the worst feeling ever. Like, no, I can't wear that. I can't eat that.
If I show up to this party late, I might as well not go.
Yeah, if it's too early, I might as well not go. If it's too late, I might as well not go. Like, I'd be embarrassed. Like, embarrassment is just so bad for them. So I guess we learn it at just a very young age, how hard embarrassment is. I mean, I was embarrassed. Probably the first time I remember being embarrassed was in preschool. The reason I have that memory and it's so strong is because I was so embarrassed. And that is a strong feeling. I was probably 3 or 4 years old. But because if we show who we really are, okay, we can be vulnerable. If we're vulnerable in that way, it can be really scary. What's on the other side of that? We don't know. Like, will people accept us? Will they leave us? Those are our primitive instincts to be part of the herd, to be accepted. So
I guess perfectionism, you could look at that as primarily just fear.
It is.
We think about for a moment, perfection is rooted in fear. Fear of not being good enough, fear of being judged, fear of failure.
Yeah. Just yesterday, we were getting ready for school. School starts so early for us. Our 2 younger girls started elementary school July 24th. And just before that, John took out one of my wisdom teeth. I've never had my wisdom teeth removed, but one of them was causing a huge problem.
And we could not get her into a different surgeon to do this. And so,
I trusted John. I mean, he does extractions and he's great. So I was just like, just take it out. And he did. And he did a great job. It just required cutting a lot more of my mouth than what we thought he would need to do. So anyway, my recovery was just a little longer than we thought. So here comes school starting. I'm like in bed. My mouth is swollen. I can hardly eat. So John's taking the girls to school the whole first week and into the second week. And finally, okay, this is all leading up to my perfectionism story. Finally,
it's your turn.
Feeling good enough. And I'm like, yes, okay, I'm going to wake up at 6:15. I'm going to make breakfast for the girls, make sure they have healthy lunches. Mom's back, And so we need to leave the house by 7:20 because we do a carpool and then their school is kind of far. So everyone's ready, or so I thought. And it's 7:20 and I'm like, boom, yes, day one, I nailed it. We're in the car, we're ready to go. So I'm waiting in the car. 2 minutes goes by. And I'm like, what is happening? Like, I have one daughter in the car, one daughter's still inside. And I swear she was totally ready for school. She had her water bottle, her lunch, everything.
Everything was all set.
I was just in the car getting more and more frustrated. And of course, in the moment, I'm not like analyzing my thoughts and feelings. Like, why am I getting so frustrated right now? That would have been a good idea.
Experience these
that would have been a great plan, but I didn't. I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm so frustrated. My daughter finally gets in the car 2 or 3 minutes later, and I'm so upset. And I totally unload those frustrations on her. Like, our carpool is waiting for us. And if we're not on time, then he's not on time. And then we're not to school on time. And I was just like fuming mad. And then, of course, she's like teary on the way to school. And I feel like, oh my gosh, I'm dropping her off at school and she's feeling crappy about herself now. And that's not what I wanted to do. It's like the opposite of how I want to send her to school. I just feel like a mess. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. But also, I'm still so mad that you were late. So I was thinking about it later. Why am I so upset about those just 2 or 3 minutes? And I tracked it back to, I didn't want the other mom to think something bad about me.
Mm-hmm.
I was afraid of her judgment. And I also wanted to meet my own expectations and high standards, like to prove to myself and to you, Jon, and to whoever was involved. There's like 3 people involved here. It's not a big deal. But I've got everything handled. Like I'm back. I've got it under control. Look at me. So like that mirage in the desert, I'm reaching to be perfectly on time. And I want all those good feelings that being on time would bring to me. It would be like,
and you want people to validate you.
Yeah,
too.
I'd have that validation,
Hey,
the
good job.
confidence, I'd have the pride. It would just feel so good after being in bed for like a whole week doing absolutely nothing. Like, wow, I did it. But I don't have that feeling because I lost out on all the good feelings because now I'm also filled with regret for losing my cool with my daughter and judging myself
Some
and
guilt, some shame.
Yes, all of the feelings because I was so upset that I wouldn't be perfect and that imperfection would be seen, that it would be noticed by somebody and there might be judgment.
Mm-hmm. So you didn't want to feel those feelings, but instead you felt those feelings anyway.
Plus more feelings. Yeah, exactly. That happens to us so much. So maybe you guys are laughing at this situation. I hope you are. It's kind of laughable now. But think about how this has shown up in your life and how it's caused a problem, how perfectionism becomes a bigger problem than just accepting your imperfections.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So my favorite people that I love are the ones who are comfortable with who they are.
Yeah, like they're not seeking validation from other people.
And like when I was going through therapy, I remember years ago, one of my counselors said, I want you to remember this, that I am enough. And it took me a long time to actually feel that way, that I am enough.
Yeah.
And not receive that validation from somebody else.
What did you do? Like you just keep reminding yourself? I've seen people like tattoo that on their forearm.
Absolutely. One time if I were to get a tattoo, that's what I would have put like on my shoulder to where I could have seen that in the mirror.
Oh, like backwards
like
or something?
I am enough.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, just like the initials, like I-A-E. I am enough.
Nice.
Something like that.
Yeah. But, so you just have to like keep reminding yourself.
You really do, but it's more than that. I mean, you have to challenge your thoughts. And I think we're going to talk about doing the work that I think that Byron Katie talks about the work.
And when you were going through part of that therapy, we both went to meetings. Like you went to addiction support meetings and I went to like spouse support meetings. And I am telling you, there is power in those meetings because you go in, well, at least for me, this is my experience. Like my first meeting, I was like, I don't want to open up and share to any of these people because I'm so used to holding that all in. Like, do not show your cards. Don't show who you really are or what you're really struggling with to anybody. And so I was just quiet. And I think this is probably very normal for the first few times that you go. And then people are just sharing and sharing. And so the first time I shared, it was amazing because in those meetings, the whole point of it is people share and then they accept and then they heal. And that's part of the program. Share, accept, heal. And Jon and I really started applying this to our marriage as well. Share, accept, and heal. And it was powerful. I mean, we've been married 25 years. This was probably at a halfway point in our marriage where I feel like we'd been married.
It was like 17, 18 years.
Yeah, probably. Like and I felt like I knew you so well, but
then you didn't.
But then I was like, wow, I don't know you at all. And I don't even know if I know myself because I'm just trying to be this perfect person instead of really finding out who I am and sharing that with you. So that's not fair to you.
No.
And it's not fair to me to have you hide all of those things from me either. I even think about like Facebook groups that I'm in and it says, you can post anonymously. And there'll be like people like, hey, just wondering if any of you guys are dealing with such and such, you know? And it's like, why don't you just make it not anonymous? Because we all go through the same thing. Have you seen those posts in the Facebook groups?
Yeah.
So, but people all struggling with that.
We don't want to show people those things. In fact, I remember, if I can share an intimate moment between us, that, we were having a conversation when I first started going to these group meetings and things like that. And I invited you to attend. And I said, hey, why don't you come to this meeting? There's people and they're going through things, and that helps me open up. And I remember what you told me.
What? I don't know. I don't remember.
You said to me, Jon, I'm not the one with the problem.
Oh, yeah, I do remember.
And you know what? You're right. Yeah, it hurt to hear. And then I had to think about this. It's like, yeah, you're not the one with my problems.
Yeah.
You're right. You're not but we all have problems.
Oh my gosh.
And we all carry them around, and we all hide behind them in this shroud of shame.
Honestly, the best thing you can do for yourself and for your marriage and for your children, for everybody, is to work on yourself, because that's the only person you have control over. And you have no idea how long it took me to realize that. Because, okay.
22 years.
Right. Well, I'm 43. So how long of my life did it take? Out of our married years. Yeah. Think about that. So what we said, perfectionism rooted in fear of failure, fear of judgment, not being good enough. And we believe that it gives us this control over how others are going to see us.
Yeah.
And so it's a way to mask our insecurities and protect ourselves from criticism. But like I said, you always only have control over yourself. So no matter how perfect you might make yourself seem, people they're still allowed to think and act the way they want about you. They can still think however they want about you. It does not matter how much you try and control the situation.
You know what's interesting is we carry our actions along with us, and people can see bright as day what's going on based off of our actions.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like you said, you love being around those people that are just vulnerable and just, they put it all out there. I love those people. It's whoa, they really don't care what people think, or they care how people feel a lot of times. They're usually more emotional and empathetic type of people.
Yeah.
But they put it out there, who they are. And I think that's what people are drawn to in this podcast, is because we do put ourselves out there. We're not talking about we do talk about our clients a lot of times and other people, but a lot of times this podcast is just about ourselves and what we're going through.
And how jacked up we are.
And how we're fixing.
Yes, this is true. We're jacked up and we're fixing it.
Yeah, we're always working on ourselves. I did have a client just recently say, so do you never have problems? Do you never have anger and stuff like that? And so it made me laugh when I just this simple situation of waiting for my daughter in the car came up. And I was like, yeah, I definitely still have problems. But I think now I'm able to resolve them a lot better. And I'm able to take ownership over them. So I'm not blaming my daughter for my anger. I'm on the way home, as I have a moment to myself, going through that process and going, oh yeah, I'm in control of myself. So how did I let my thoughts and feelings control my actions in that situation? So that's what I love about it, is I can take ownership over that. That can be heavy sometimes.
And it can take time.
Yeah.
It's practice to be able to actually get to that point. Sometimes being angry and be able to accept why you were actually angry could take all day. Other times it can take just a couple of minutes.
Yeah. And so think about this with that desire to be perfect in order to cover up your weak spots or your insecurities. Hey, it's Alyson and Jon just popping into our podcast.
Yeah, just real fast. If you're enjoying this content, please scroll down and give us that 5-star rating and leave us a positive review.
Yes, please. And share your favorite episode on social media or with a friend.
This really helps us get the word out to more people.
Thanks. And back to the show. So if someone criticized you, okay, if the other mom was like, you were late and it was only your first day, she wouldn't say that. I know this person. She would not even.
No, and she's so sweet.
This person. But she said, I can't believe you were 3 minutes late. What is wrong with you? I don't know what she would have said or what my fear was about what she would have said. Then what? Ask yourself, what would happen?
I'm going to feel something.
I'm going to have a feeling. Okay. And what? Okay. So with dentists,
I'm going to cry.
We love coaching dentists.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, we have, speaking of group sessions. We're starting up a group coaching session
Yep.
for dentists
Mhm.
and their wives specifically. So
And
it's a great program.
It's unique because, I mean, we're focusing on the issues that we might have specifically, or somebody
Yeah.
else might have specifically. It's tailor made to
Yeah,
the client that we're working with.
pretty awesome. So I have this coaching client that is a dentist, and he was just like, no, but you don't understand. I have to be perfect.
Yes.
Like, I have to work at this level of perfection. And I said, or else what?
Well,
And
I
that,
could lose my license.
yeah, that's the question. Well, a patient will complain about me. That was the first.
Yeah.
Then what? Okay, so let's say that somebody isn't happy with your work. Well, they could complain about me. They could take me to the board, and then I could lose my license. Okay, so I just keep saying, then what? Then what? Oh, then I could go to prison, and my wife would leave me. I mean,
Yeah.
it's all these like worst case scenarios. But if you actually do slow down and ask yourself, what if I showed this imperfect part of me? What if I just let myself be seen? What's the worst that could happen?
You know, the fact is nobody around you cares. They really don't. You can be that person. And people are so busy in their own lives that they don't care if you're perfect or not. They're worried about themselves.
Yeah, that's pretty true. Well, with dentists, though, it feels very real because if you do make a mistake or a patient even thinks that you made a mistake and you complain about it, there's consequences that could possibly happen that
Absolutely.
could hurt your career. You
Mhm.
could get that 1-star review. This could happen in any business, by the way, not just dentistry.
Yeah.
But you could get that complaint, that 1-star review, that word of mouth. Don't go and see that person. It could happen.
Mhm.
But what's the worst that could happen? I mean, is it worth living your life to that degree of stress and pain and potential burnout
Mhm.
to avoid that potential pain that you think could happen?
Well, you ask any dentist that has been through a board complaint, and they make it the most stressful part of their entire career.
It's tough.
They
It
ma-
is tough.
And you're facing this panel that could potentially remove your livelihood.
Mhm.
And that can be hard. And we can make mountains out of molehills as well. I mean, if you get sent to the board, for instance, because you had a bad margin on a crown or something like that, the worst that can happen is they're going to say, hey, take some CE. But all during that time, we're worried about our entire world's collapsing around us.
Yeah. Usually the board does not take away your license because somebody complained.
And I've talked with some of these people, and my question to them is, was the worry worth it? And they're like,
Yeah.
absolutely not.
Oh,
Every single time. The worry has never been worth it.
I love that. In fact, I heard just the other day somebody say, I just choose to deal with the pain once instead of twice. She goes, because I was living my life in worry, always worried about what might happen if this thing happened. And so I was always in pain. And then the thing rarely happened.
No.
Maybe never at all.
Mhm.
But if it did, I was in pain then too. Or I could just not worry about the thing. And if it did happen, then I deal with the pain of it.
Mhm.
I was like, that is so wise. I love that. Just have the pain once instead of multiple times,
Yeah.
instead of living a life of pain and stress and worries.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you mentioned Byron Katie before,
I
and
did.
she's kind of like groundbreaking for what we call the work.
Yeah.
Well, in fact, she did. She's the one that started calling it
The work, or it's thought work, basically.
Yeah. And so what is the work? It is when you ask yourself, is this thought true? It's looking at your thoughts and being mindful of them.
And there's 4 specific questions that she asks in a particular scenario. So like we could choose something as an example.
Okay, let's go back to my carpool example.
Okay, so your carpool
The
thing.
mom is going to think, I don't have my stuff together.
There you go. And then the question is that thought true?
Well,
Yes or no? Or is it, I don't know?
it's probably not true.
Probably not true.
But what if
we
I said,
don't
no,
know.
it's true. It's definitely true. And then her second question is,
Can I absolutely know that that is true?
well, no, I
Okay.
couldn't absolutely know it's true. Even if that person said it,
Uh-huh.
a lot of times people say things that they don't mean. So you have to think about that as well.
So the third question, and this is what she calls the turnaround. All
Yeah.
right. So these 4 questions. The third question is how do I react when I believe this thought?
So when I believe this mom is going to look at me poorly for being 3 minutes late, I'm reacting.
You look at yourself poorly.
I'm reacting to my daughter, right? Like, this is your fault. You're making us late. I was supposed to be on time. And then I'm judging myself later on. And it's this whole problem that I've created. And then the last question with Byron Katie, who would I be without this thought? Like, if I was just able to let that go, and I know people that are able to do this, and I admire them so much. Like, they can just let go of the possible judgment.
So who would you be without that thought?
I would just be like chill. I would be like happier, healthier, a nicer mom, kinder, more forgiving, gentle, patient, all those qualities that
and these are things that we seek after wanting to be. And so, I mean, who would I be without this thought? And you get those thoughts inside of you. Well, of course I want to be this person.
Yes.
And then, the belief is that eventually this thought turns around and we change that person that we are because we've changed our thoughts.
Yeah.
And I love that.
It becomes easier to identify the thoughts that are causing the pain, but then easier to let go of them because it's like, oh, this is how I react. Oh, this is how I could live my life if I didn't have that. Yeah, I want that.
Absolutely.
So Brooke Castillo, who was our life coaching guru, the one that we went to for life coach school and got certified, she says, shift your mindset from seeking perfection to making progress, small victories, improvements. That's what we're aiming for. And that set realistic goals and acknowledge your efforts regardless of the outcome.
And this is an age-old adage. I mean, this is not something Brooke Castillo came up with. I mean,
it's just one of her main motivational things that she teaches. And we try and teach that to our clients as well.
And we use that phrase in my practice all the time with the gals. I mean, my assistants, God love them. They are their worst critics. And like, for instance, when they don't have an x-ray sensor ready for me or something like that, their world just comes crumbling down in the middle of the procedure that I'm doing. And we have to stop and, reboot for 30 seconds and then take those x-rays. But in the meantime, I always have to tell them, listen, this is about progression. This isn't perfection.
Yeah.
You're doing a great job.
Okay. So 2 number 1 tips so far, challenge your thoughts.
Progression, not perfection.
Yes. Focus on progress, not perfection. Our third one, we have 6, by the way. So just hold on. Number 3 has got to be prioritize your self-care. When you are taking care of your mental health and your physical health and doing things that bring you joy and refill your cup or charge your batteries, whatever analogy you like using, it will reduce your stress and reduce your need for perfectionism.
I had to do that just this morning. And sometimes we just flat out need to make space to feel our emotions.
What was that? What happened?
Well, this morning I woke up to the Nikkei index in Japan crashing.
Yeah.
And we've got, hundreds of thousands in the stock market.
Not anymore.
And it's like, I'm doing the math. It's like, holy crap, overnight our value is, almost $500,000 less. And wow, that freaked me. And then the perfectionism kicked in of, man, I'm managing the finances for our family. I just lost our entire family, $500,000. And, and on and on. So yes, I was feeling some stress this morning. So what did I do for self-care while I was feeling that stress and while my mind was working through that? I got in the massage chair.
Yeah, I saw you took a bath.
I took a bath.
You got in the massage chair.
I took a second bath.
You took 2 baths before we recorded the podcast this morning. I was like, you okay, bro?
No, but I will. And I could say that. No, I'm not, but I will be.
Yeah. And
look, here I am. I'm recording a podcast. How cool is that?
And look, this is what I think where the growth is that years ago, you would have hidden that from me. Like, I can't let Alyson know that I just lost all this money overnight.
Oh, and don't think that thought didn't cross my mind. I didn't want to tell anybody about this.
And
it's not because I don't want to tell you. It's I don't want to stress you out and I don't want you to shoulder the stress that I'm feeling.
Right. But it's like vulnerability. Then I accept that vulnerability and then we heal together and then we move on. If you're in a relationship like this, a marriage, and you're holding something from your spouse, they feel that.
They do.
Like
It's all in your actions.
Yeah, you show up in a different way. You don't show up as the person you're wanting to be with
I mean,
with
what
your
would you
partner.
think about me if I went through all of that this morning and didn't tell you about it? Like, what thoughts would be going through your mind?
Well, and I found out about it later.
No, like while I'm
Oh,
going
if you
through
didn't
it, your
tell me about
observations.
it,
Yeah.
I would wonder what was going on. I would be suspicious. I would think you're holding something from me
Mhm.
and not telling me, and that would get me really worried. And then, of course, my mind goes to all the worst case scenarios.
Mhm.
Like, I can't even say on the podcast how bad my mind would reel about what is going on with you. And
But in reality, no,
it would set me off.
there's
Like, then
none of
I
those
would,
terrible
yeah.
things. I just lost $500,000. So no,
Yeah,
it is what
it
it
was
is.
bad, but we go through it together. And
Mhm.
I think that's the fourth tip, is practicing that vulnerability. If you're not used to it, take it in pieces.
Mhm.
Okay. So Jon and I did this when we were really trying to heal our relationship, is that he would give me little bits of like, okay, I've held this back from you. And I'd say, okay, let me go digest that for a little bit. Like, let me figure that out, because I want to.
Because you're not
accept
practiced at
and
this
heal.
either.
Yeah, at the time, I was like, I don't know this person that
Mhm.
shares so much with me. And I also don't know this person. Like, the things you were sharing, I'm like, I didn't think that was you. And I've been married to you for all these years. So it was a lot for me. And so just learning how to share your struggles, share your imperfections, not with the whole world. You don't have to like stand up with a microphone and tell it to everybody
Mhm.
on Facebook or anything, but just a few trusted friends or
Yeah.
a family member or something, somebody that you know that you can connect with and helps you break that down. And it will help show you that you don't have to put on that face all the time. You don't have to be perfect all the
No.
time.
And sometimes that person, maybe the best person for that, might not be your spouse.
Exactly. That's a good point. That's a really good point.
We-
I
we-
have like a trusted friend and I had a dream the other day that she died, and it was awful. I woke up with puffy eyes, red eyes, because in my dream, I really was like, I lost the person that I could talk to about everything. And she is that friend, and she's that kind of human. And I challenge you to have somebody in your life that you trust to that extent. That takes time.
Yeah, and find a tribe.
It didn't happen automatically.
I started out going to group meetings in either the AA program or, within the church, we have a really neat program called the Addiction Recovery Program, ARP.
Mhm.
Great people, like-minded with, what I believe as far as a deity and things like that. And so, we had that in common.
Yeah.
And we can go to these meetings and we can be vulnerable. And, I would say that those are probably the first meetings that I actually felt spirituality in, because when we are vulnerable, we do invite God into our lives.
I love that. Our fifth tip is mindfulness and presence.
Mhm.
So when you practice mindfulness, like we said, it's practicing being aware of your mind. You try and stay connected to your true self. So when you become aware of those perfectionist tendencies, it can bring you back to who you are. Like that morning with my daughter in the carpool, taking time to reflect on my actions. My actions were me lashing out at my daughter. Where did that come from? Actions always come from feelings. What was I feeling? I was feeling fear, right? I was feeling fear. That perfectionism so often is from that feeling of fear. I was afraid I was going to be judged or criticized.
Well, let me ask you there, how many iterations of emotions did you have to go through until you decided, okay, this really is fear?
Yeah, I was like always feeling angry. No, I was feeling self-defeat. No, I was feeling
Frustration.
frustrated. Yeah, but no, what it came down to was I was feeling fear because I was able to address my thought, which was that other mom is going to think something bad about me, or that Jon, you are going to think something bad about me
Mhm.
because I was late and I don't want to be late. So having that fear. So that was the mindfulness exercise. Like I said, it's such a great learning opportunity when you can practice mindfulness.
Now, I like this last one, is to limit comparison.
Huge. And there's a reason we're saving it for the end.
Well, I mean, it's so important, especially in today's social age, where we can easily just get on to Instagram and we can see these wonderful lives and beautiful people. And the fact is the camera is the world's best liar. It only shows you what the photographer wants you to see.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we are seeing could be indeed a lie itself. And so, it's very important to reduce our social comparisons. We don't want to focus our own path. We want to compare our own path to somebody else's path.
Yeah. We're all on a different journey. It's all unique.
It's an individualized curriculum is what I love to say.
Okay. To expand on that. I love that.
Well, my belief is yes, we did have a pre-earth life and then we came here to learn. And each and every one of us have been subject to different things.
Yeah. Like different upbringings.
Different parents, different parenting styles. You experienced a different parent than what your youngest brother did because your parents grew and evolved.
Right.
And so, as a result, every single one of us have this individualized curriculum to work through and triggers, and they're all so unique. And so if I were to compare myself to somebody else, that's just flat out not fair. It's not fair to that other person because they're having their experience, and it's certainly not fair to us.
I love that. We all come from such diverse backgrounds, genetics, political backgrounds, even, and religious upbringings.
Culturally.
We're all so different, and that's beautiful. And I love that. And we can celebrate our differences, but definitely limit the comparisons.
Yeah. I mean, that's cool. Go on Instagram, say, yeah, that's cool, but that's not me.
Yeah. Well, and with AI these days, too, like you can look at somebody's quote unquote vacation and then realize that it was all AI.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely crazy, this world that we're coming into.
And the deep fake of actual people online. You're seeing an image that's not a real person sometimes.
Oh, it's so crazy. Be careful of comparison.
So let's go ahead and wrap this up. I've got to get Josie to her appointment.
Yay. Okay, so we're going to encourage you to stop chasing the mirage in the desert, the mirage of perfectionism, and embrace the real, beautiful, and imperfect you.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey today through the desert of perfectionism.
All right. Until next time, stay cool. Enjoy the kids back to school. That rhymed. And we'll see you next time.
Keep shining. Take care.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in today.
We hope you found value in this podcast.
We have so much more for you over at our website at www.drjonalyson.com.
Yes, we have some great coaching programs that include one-on-one coaching, group coaching, videos, and workbooks.
All the tools that you will need to make a positive change in your life.
We're here for you every step of the way, so just go to www.drjonalyson.com to get started. The link is in the show notes.